It's a great pleasure to introduce to you next a vice president of Keybank, who we see as a huge partner statewide. They have a great program for residential customers, the only big bank in the state that is helping us finance on the residential side. So Joe is going to talk about it on the business side. Joe?
Thank you, Bill. Morning, everybody. So, thank you for coming out today. Appreciate the opportunity to talk with everybody. You know, one of the things we've heard so far this morning is the collaboration that's happened between Motor Cars and Dovetail and ourselves, Keybank, as a very collaborative effort in terms of usually I have people tell me I'm loud enough, so sorry about that. The collaboration that it takes between those three groups to really coordinate and effectively provide the right overview. So what we want to kind of accomplish today is talk about how that happens and how we can evaluate the opportunity and evaluate how you pull that opportunity through from a financing side. So a little bit about Keybank and what we do and what we focus on. You know, energy efficiency and renewables, you know, a lot in lighting, HVAC, building envelope, solar, renewables, and so forth. So we really take a holistic approach in terms of how you look at energy within your facility and how you and what your strategy is in terms of reducing those operating costs. Couple bullet points here from our most recent corporate responsibility report to give you a feel just specifically in regards to renewables. Over $2 billion in our portfolio by the end of 2014. It's about 6,700 megawatts of solar and wind in the United States that has the ability to power more than 2 million homes, to kind of give you a little bit of perspective. So this is an area where we have a lot of experience in, both on the commercial side as well as on the utility side as well. So area we like to play in. How do we want to look at going through the process? As Al was talking about a little bit earlier, towards the end, you know, there's a large number of ways to potentially look at financing: leasing, term loans, PACE financing, real estate, a large variety of things. And to Chuck's comment earlier when we first started, the challenge wasn't that the opportunity wasn't here for the dealership, but the challenge was understanding how that fits into the financial condition of the company and where their goals are. And once you go through that process and identify where those opportunities are and how that fits, the conversation becomes much simpler and much easier. And then when we pair it with bringing in the experts into the market, you know, we have Brian and Dave here from our auto group, you know, where we pair the specific financial acumen of that specific industry with renewables, that really becomes accelerated. So, quick question for the room. I want to kind of keep this open. How many people in the room, by a show of hands, focus on the implementation side? You know, selling, lighting, solar, or somewhere in that project? Okay, good. So about a third to a quarter of the room. How many people are here have looked at, have, or done energy efficiency or a solar, or considering doing a solar project? By a raise of hands. Okay, good. What I want to encourage you guys to do as we go through our conversation here is bring up questions, concerns, things that you guys are thinking about and trying to get around. So from a process standpoint, what we want to talk about today is how you evaluate the system and then plug in the appropriate lending facility or what have you that best fits the goals of the organization and best fits the financial condition to allow you to move forward, right? So it's a little bit of a product agnostic approach. Doesn't matter if you're using a tax lease structure, if you're using, a real estate structure, a pay structure, or what have you. It's about identifying where the opportunity is within the financial condition of that organization. A nonprofit organization is going to look at this differently than a for-profit organization is going to look at it. Financial conditions are different, so the product set and the delivery is going to be a little bit different. So what you want to do is within that partnership of the building owner, the installer or contractor that you're looking to do, and your financial institution is assess where those opportunities are, both from a from a solar systems perspective as well as the financial piece. You design a solution around that. You evaluate that business model alongside of the accountants and everybody that's there. One thing we noticed from Chuck's comment this morning is once he determined that it was a financially viable project, it made sense to do. Looking at it from an overview perspective, without focusing on a specific lending product, will allow you to identify the best opportunity to do that. And then you implement and measure. Obviously, with some of the comments today, and I wasn't as lucky on the timing of the graph, but obviously you can see the energy that that's produced. So I promise, as a banker, this is the only spreadsheet or data that I'm going to show. But what we wanted to do here was look at how you want to look at a financial model, and then and where the incentives come in, and then based on that information, you can then balance that with where the company's going and where its specific goals are. How many people in the room that either have been talking about doing a solar system that funding that solar system has been probably the biggest challenge by a show of hands? Okay, good. So what we want to do here is show how the financials flow and the profitability flows. This is the SREG or the REC income that you get from that. We always want to put in a maintenance just in case. This particular example shows a system of $362,000. Of that, the 30% tax credit that Al was talking about, the ITC, is just short of $109,000. The depreciation that comes in there actually carries over a 5-year period. So now what you're actually seeing here is the total revenue year over year. You can then plug in the different financial lending strategy that would make sense. Whether you're using a tax lease that helps you incorporate some of the tax benefits into the loan, whether you look at it from a PACE perspective or what have you, that gives you the baseline to say, okay, what model makes the most sense. What you have here is your yearly income off the system, and then your rolling net effect. So this just it adds in the total for each year, year over year. So this allows you to determine where your ROI is on the project. So $362,000 project means that you're going to be right in that 8.5 year mark for a return on an investment. And then the next 25 years, you're bringing in that full value or energy production from that standpoint. So what this allows you to do is understand the factual financial condition of where that is, where the tax benefits come in based on that organization, and then you can then apply that to the specific scenario or the specific opportunities that you're looking for. The ultimate goal here is to leverage all of the different incentives and tax components and end up with a debt structure that's less than the income. So irregardless of if it's a 8-year ROI, 5-year ROI, 10-year ROI, you're cash positive on day one, and it's a positive net effect to the company's balance sheet. And that's the process that you want to go through when you're looking at the type of project that you're doing, where the tax benefits and incentives come in from that, and layering that in. That's the discussion of the challenge that Chuck was talking about earlier. That is this financially beneficial? So, with that being said, for the ones that kind of raise their hands about the challenges with funding a system, where do some of those challenges? Where do some of those challenges come from? From that standpoint?
I can't see the numbers. We mentioned an 8-year payback. That includes the 30% tax credit. What would the payback be?
So the cost of the system is $362,000, right? Your rolling net effect tells you how much 2016, 15.
What's the ROI with the tax credit going away?
So that number would turn to 10% as opposed to 30%. Rough numbers in my head, you'd probably be around 10 and a half years.
If you need to install a new roof, can that be blended into the tax credit?
It could be blended into the financial model, but it's not. The 30% is strictly to the solar system. So you can break this off. You can break this up and just add the cost of the roofing in the model, but your ITC tax benefit and depreciation would remain the same, just off the system. Yes.
How is solar dealing with low price of natural gas? How's it faring?
How's it faring with the excuse me, with the low price of natural gas? When we're looking at solar, it's really about a reduction in the amount of energy that you're using. So the comparisons have typically been what's your kilowatt cost, how much can we reduce that cost by, and what that number is versus the cost of doing the system. So there's not really a direct relationship to natural gas costs and whether that drives into the feasibility of the financial model. Some of the things that I've seen from the utility companies in terms of new power generation, a good percentage of that is projected to come from renewables, then natural gas. The projection as I've seen, and again, I'm just saying this, from what I've had. I'm certainly not an expert in that particular area. It shows that the prices are going to continue to, the overall electric prices are going to continue to go up by 5 to 6% per year.
So, of course, nonprofits can't take advantage of the income tax credit.
Mm-hmm.
So, a lot of times what they resort to is the power purchasing agreements.
Mm-hmm.
Has Keybank been involved with maybe owning the system or kind of helping with the financing portion so that someone can buy the system and own it for the nonprofit? Has Keybank been involved with those?
power purchase agreements, or even ECAs work the same. Energy service agreements kind of work the same way. And yeah, absolutely we do. And that would be one of the ways that you would want to leverage it from that. There's a couple different ways of doing it. We don't participate in ownership of the system. But we do have structures that look at the special purpose entity that would be created that owns the system and how those financials flow. And then what happens is at the end of the taxable period, that nonprofit then has an opportunity to buy the system at that fair market value. From that standpoint, so yeah, we do quite a bit of that type of opportunity.
Is the tax incentive voted on each year?
I think the current ITC program has been in effect for 3 years. Bill, does that sound correct? Yeah, and with an automatic conversion to the 10% and to the 10% after 2016, unless there was an alternate legislation put in place to change that. So I'm not sure where that came from. Oh, I saw another hand. Yeah.
Are you seeing any move to systems where people are installing solar in conjunction with either air or ground source heat pumps to not only reduce their electricity use of the grid, but also natural gas or whatever for heating?
Yeah, we're seeing a large amount of combined type of projects. I think what typically we're seeing is somebody will look at doing some type of energy efficiency or a renewable project, kind of prove out the concept and say, okay, this really is providing the energy savings that's there, and then they'll layer in a more full approach. You know, you notice on the system here, there's LED lighting, you know, interior, exterior, along with the solar and so forth. So multiple phase projects, or even putting in solar for a specific, the power specific function is very common.
Can you talk about how time of use pricing would affect the earlier payback for commercial customers that have demand charges, and the PV reduces the amount of heat charges?
So what we did, sure. So this model basically shows their current standard rate, not peak demand charges. So it's a conservative model, and it doesn't show the acceleration of, you know, that 5 or 6% rate increase year over year. So that would improve those. But I think where you want to look at it from a modeling standpoint is historically where your peaks have been, and analyzing where your overall costs are coming from, and designing that system where appropriate to offset that from that standpoint. And that goes back to that kind of that consultative approach between all three groups, because then you can maximize that opportunity. So, yeah.
Do you have any financing options or structures where it would be considered non-capital or off-balance sheet by an external auditor or a banking syndicate?
So you can do a true off-balance sheet lease, you know, where it looks like an expense on the books as opposed to debt. Absolutely. You know, and that's one of the things from that consultative approach. You know, we're going to look at where the you know, what that financial strategy is, and not only where they're at today with what they're trying to accomplish, but what you put in place and how that fits into that long-term strategy. I think one of the things that's very common in the conversation is when you're talking about facilities, it says, look, I have a $200,000 capital budget for this year, and you want to do a $100,000 solar project. I have to get rid of something over here in that $200,000 to put your $100,000 project in. And when you model it this way, you're using a zero capital dollars out of the company's finances, and you're creating a debt structure that's less than the cash value of the energy savings. So you have an immediate positive net effect to the company as soon as that system is turned on. So the conversation really is how you maintain the $200,000 in that example of the capital expenditures that you're going to do, and you add in the $100,000 in solar, and you actually have a stronger balance sheet only than if you didn't do the solar at all.
And have you done that under the current or proposed changes in accounting rules, you know, with capitalization of leases? Or have you done that recently?
Yes.
Repeat the question,
Yeah.
please.
The one thing that you know I want to make sure that you know we're clear on is this is going to be done in conjunction with the accounting firm for that business as well. So we're you know that's kind of the fourth leg of that conversation. So that strategy is really going to be ultimately determined and defined by the CPA, where we're providing options to be able to facilitate that.
Check out the option would be. I can't imagine I will go Keybank normally all I'm talking about, but they call it universal, so.
Well, I hope they would know. I hope they would know a little bit about it. But the way the way that we're set up today is we have an internal support system to help bridge that educational gap. You know, when we did this project here at Motor Cars, and ultimately we as in our energy efficiency and renewables team supported you know Brian and David and his team that focuses in the motor car space, and that's really a good advantage both for the client and for the project, because you have the expertise of that specific business line, financing in that space, so we understand that market very specifically, and then layering in that energy efficiency and renewables conversation. Any other questions? Good. So I told you there was only one slide. So oh wait a minute.
How are the incentives different from state to state with tax incentives? That is.
You know what? There's some states that are more aggressive than others. New York and North Carolina have an additional incentive on top of the ITC to help accelerate that opportunity. There's a handful of websites that are out there that actually help you identify what's available, you know, during what time period in what states, and that's something that we can help make connections to, you know, outside of Ohio.
Do you have any suggestions as to how to bring, or how we could actually get Ohio to bring more incentives to all of us?
I think that guy left a little bit earlier. Again, thank you very much. I'll be here a little bit later to answer more questions.
Okay, we're running a little bit behind, but we got plenty of time here.